we have married priests in the future? Well, we have married priests now, but not very many of them in the Latin church, our church. The apostles left everything, including their families. And so the tradition of the church was that if you were an ordained priest, even if you had been married, you lived as if you weren't married. You separated from your wife, or lived with her, but as brother and sister. Then in the Eastern churches, they began to say, well, we will ordain a married man, but an ordained man can't marry. So if the wife dies, then you have to be a widower. That's true for deacons today, too. But the priesthood in the Western church always had the tradition of being men who were celibate for the sake of the kingdom of heaven first, and then became priests. So I think we're going to keep that tradition. There are many reasons for it. A priest is married to the church, just like Christ is only one bride, the church. That's why I wear a ring. The priest is married to the church. Doesn't mean he couldn't also be married to a woman, but it's a better witness in some ways if he's married only to the church, which is Christ's bride. And there are a lot of other reasons for it, particularly in our kind of sexually drenched culture. We're a post-Freudian culture that says your sexual identity, your sexual activity is the most important thing about you. So somebody has to say, no, it's not. Who you are related to God, who you are related to God's people is more important than being sexually active. And it is possible. There are a lot of failures, but it is possible with God's grace. Just like there are adulterers and there are fornicators. Well, there are some unfaithful priests. We do our best to be sure that doesn't happen, but sometimes it does. But nonetheless, the witness is there. The overwhelming majority of priests live their celibacy quite faithfully, sometimes with difficulty, but they do. And that's an important statement in our culture. It is possible to be an adult human being and not have sex. Somebody has to say that. It's resented. Most of the questions I get about the Catholic Church start with celibacy. People can't seem to abide the fact that you promise not to have sexual relationships so that your love can not be centered on one person, but on all the people through Christ. It's very resented. First of all, it's not believed, and sometimes, for good reason. But it's just a very difficult kind of witness today, and for that very reason, I doubt that the church will change it, at least not right now. The challenge is different. In our culture, the challenge is sexual activity and intimacy. But it's a challenge, for example, in tribal peoples, parts of Africa, Asia. Intimacy isn't important. What's important is children. If you don't have a child, you're not a man. It doesn't matter whether you're married or not, but you must have a child. And so they have to deal with celibacy in that context. We have to deal with it in the context of intimacy and friendship and loneliness. But it's always a challenge, because the kingdom of God is not the same as the kingdom of this world. If you're saying I'm going to live as if I were already in the kingdom of God, well, that's a huge challenge. And it's hard. At the same time, it brings great joy. Priests know the joy they have in their people, to whom they're married and whom they love. And that is not the same as married love in the ordinary sense, but it's real love. And you can tell yourself when a priest loves you and when he doesn't. When a priest loves his people and when he doesn't. You know that. And when he does, when it works, it's wonderful. So I don't think we're going to change that rule. But there will be exceptions to the rule. There are now. And there may be some more as things move along.